The best salespeople in the world are the ones who do it without you even noticing. Everyone's a salesperson, especially if you're an entrepreneur. In the I'm Not Salesy podcast, join me, Cassie McKenzie, and my fabulous guests as we dive into the top strategies, mindset, and energetics around sales and money so that you can hear more, yes, I'm in, instead of crickets or getting ghosted. So if you're ready to fully book out your programs with aligned AF clients and have people chasing you down in your inbox, asking how to work with you, then subscribe to this podcast today and become not salesy too. If you've ever sat there and looked at your DMs and been like, oh my God, this is literally full of crickets. Like there's nothing going on but the rent here. And you're like, oh my gosh, what does it take to actually have an inbox full of people wanting to work with me, having leads coming to me every day, having people saying, send me the link, and really have these results that you see other people having, and you just like think that there's something wrong with you because you're not getting it. If this is you, then listen up. I have the most amazing way to work together. And I feel like this is something that you don't have to experience, right? If you've posted up content every single day for months now and you're still not getting any inbound leads reaching out to you, and you actually want to fill your programs with ideal clients and have people saying, send me the link, and really build your business, but you feel like it should be working right now, then don't throw in the towel. Come to Mama Cass. I want to see you filling your programs with dream clients. I want you to feel like you're so completely confident when you're promoting your programs, and that you hear way more of a yes instead of getting ghosted, and you know exactly what to say during your sales conversations. And when you show up, whether it's in the DMs and you're talking to like the crazy amount of people that really want to work with you, or you're on a sales call, I want you to be able to get on the phone and get on sales calls with people who are already pre-sold, saying, how can we get started without you even having to pitch them? And even when you do have to pitch them and you get to that point in the sales call, it's so easy breezy that it's just like, it's easy as breathing, right? I want you to know that this is possible, because this month I'm starting with a group of experts, a group of coaches and consultants who really want to grow their business. And I'm going to teach you how to turn your coaching business into a sales machine, but one that's actually fun to run, right? Like the Maserati of sales machines, a Porsche, right? So we're going to go way past just giving you trainings and processes to create a steady flow of inbound quality leads. I'm actually going to be practicing scenarios with you so that you know how to close your sales, you know how to develop customer relationships, and you get real-time feedback on your actual DMs so that you start closing sales in the DMs and you start hearing more yes on your sales calls. And I'm even going to give you the tools to clear out the old fears and beliefs and the frustrating emotions that have prevented you from making sales so that you start stacking money in your bank account. There's nothing else like this online. I expect this first group to fill up really quickly, and I want you to send me a DM on Instagram or on LinkedIn with the word sales. Tell me that you heard this on the podcast, and I will get you the details, because I want to see you wildly successful. I want this ripple effect to really take off. It makes me happier to see your results than to see my own, because it means that this ripple effect is happening and that the work we do together is going far beyond just the call that we are on, that it's going on to impact your clients and impact the lives surrounded by them as well. This is the vibe. So this is what we're doing in the Sales Queen Takeover. You're going to learn how to attract leads that are aligned with you, that feel great working with. You're going to learn how to do this in a way where you're able to easily close them on the sales calls, easily close in the DMs, so that you can get to work helping the people who need you most, and that you can have an insane amount of impact on the world on a daily basis. So I look forward to seeing you there. I am so excited for this to get started, and I can't wait to hear what you create. Yay! Welcome back for another episode of I'm Not Salesy. I'm your host, Cassie McKenzie, and I'm a sales coach for coaches who want to bust free from the 9 to 5. And so I'm so excited for this topic because on the podcast so far, I have had a lot of, it seems like I attracted a lot of branding specialists towards the beginning of when the podcast launched, and also like NLP and mindset and money talk. I love talking about money mindset as, as it relates to sales. But today, like I really want to hone in on the back end of what I do, right? Like the back end of the message around my I help statement, if you want to call it that, right? Which is helping you bust free from like having to smell Kevin's tuna sandwich in the cubicle next door, or that annoying coworker who asks 5 million fucking questions about why her computer isn't working. And you're like, that's why we have an IT department. So hi, like I always understood why people drank alcohol when they like worked in corporate America, because it's like, what the fuck? It's like literally regular, oh my God, like people you can't avoid. Wherein in coaching, you can pick and choose your clients. And so that's another reason to want to do this, for God's sake. So I have the best guest today. And she's someone I met. It was amazing that I met on LinkedIn. And this is why I love LinkedIn, because I had to like pay on Facebook and Instagram to be in groups to meet cool people like you, Renee. So I've got Renee La Tour today as my guest. You know that messaging that coaches do where they're like, get in the room, meet people who are at or above your level. And that's why you pay to be in a mastermind. And I bought into that shit for a couple of years. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I need to. Until I got to LinkedIn and I was like, damn, like the caliber is like a new standard, and you meet people who get you and who get it. And you know what I mean? It's like, this is what I've been missing my whole coaching life. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit. Welcome, first of all, welcome, Renee. I'm so glad you're here. And then
Thank you. I'm like dying laughing with your intro. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I remember those damn cubicle days. Like, okay, yeah. You're killing me. I love it.
yeah, and then like the person on your team who's like, you're like, let me just send a quick text to everybody, right? Like this happens on sales teams where you're like, does everything have to be on email? You know what I mean? Like, let me just ask you a quick question, just get back to me real quick, right? And there's the one person who's like, I prefer to communicate via email instead, so I will get back to you on Monday. And you're like, for fuck's sake, like it was a yes or no question. Like, can we just move on with life and make things easy? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the bureaucracy and the nonsense. And yeah, yeah.
yeah. So Renee, though, we are going to help you guys bust free between one or to the both of us. We're going to help you with this because she is a business strategist behind the Ticket to Freedom program that helps 6-figure solopreneurs go from feeling trapped and burnt out to being location independent. And she's a full-time traveler. She's currently in Argentina. I'm so excited to hear about this. And a part-time entrepreneur. So literally, you don't have to work your corporate hours when you are a solopreneur if you put in the systems and you put in, the processes, and having that fancy nomad lifestyle that she's coined to describe her lifestyle, right? So I'm so excited you're here, Renee. I think this is such a great topic because so many people plan to leave corporate America, right? And like I help them make the sales to leave corporate America, or to leave that just I've got to work all day mentality, but it tends to stick around because you're ingrained. Like if you've never been able or had the flexibility to get your shit done in 2 hours and not have to sit there for 8, then I think it can be hard mentally to wrap your head around the fact that you can like double, triple, quadruple the income you're used to making while you're chained to your desk and work like a little fraction of the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I first of all, I just want to say for anyone who's listening, you're starting in the right place, listening to a sales coach, because that is going to be the backbone to your business. Like if you don't have sales, you don't have a business. So the funny thing about the work that I do is a lot of people will come to me thinking, oh, I need to get systems in place. I need to get the back end. I just don't want to work. They've kind of bought into this Instagram lifestyle that you see, and you're working on the beach and a laptop from your laptop, and propped up and beautiful scenery and all this. And I will tell you, I'll be the first to tell you, yes, it is possible because I've been doing it, and I've been doing it for years. I've been location independent for years, running multiple businesses from all over the world. So yes, I will tell you that, but you don't start there. That's
Yeah.
not where you start. So when I love to like educate people about the back end, about the systems, about identifying points of leverage, that comes after you work with someone like yourself, to get those sales systems in place to actually identify, okay, what is my product, what is my offer, how am I going about selling that, and that is the biggest point of leverage. I just want to point that out because I'm like, that's why I've been super grateful to meet you on LinkedIn. And like you said, you don't need a permission slip. Like, get on LinkedIn. It has blown my mind
Mhm.
how genuine people are. It's actually ironic because it's like the professional platform, right?
Yeah.
But people are so genuine. Like, people legit want to help you. People are so kind, so friendly. If you're not on LinkedIn, I swear, like, get on today. Do not wait.
For sure. I know. I agree. I've been singing its praises ever since I really started getting serious about LinkedIn back. I want to say it was like January, mid-January was when I had hired a coach to just understand, like, I understand the systems, right? I understand that you need to have like an actionable plan to spend a fraction of your time, or else, like, LinkedIn, don't get me wrong, it's a platform you could spend 10 hours a day nonstop on, right? Like, you could do your busy work there and still not make any sales. And so my mission is really to teach people what are like those main things to do every day that then lead to an avalanche of results, you know? And I think that's what you help people with too, like once they have the sales in place, right? Especially location independent. Because one of the things that I see because I've been following like a couple of people on LinkedIn that recently went location independent. And this was a lesson I had to learn when we traveled, especially with kids, is that, like, you might have it in your head that, oh my God, I can travel, I can take my business wherever I want to go. But then you get there and you're like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to go play. Like, I don't want to have to go meet it. I don't want to talk, I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing. Wait, you mean, and like, we don't really drink that much anymore, but we used to, especially on vacation, especially when we go to South Africa, because the wine is like incredible there,
Oh my
right?
God.
So I'd be like,
Yes.
shit, how am I supposed to schedule a coaching call if we want to go to a winery today? Like, that's totally like, what a downer. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I gotta restructure, I gotta figure out a way. Like, yes, in theory, you can work from anywhere, but in your mind, like, can you really? Like, where are you blocking business? Because some part in you thinks, if I have these clients, then I won't be able to play, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, I love you bringing this up, and it does. It is science, but it is art, and it depends person to person what's going to work best for you, but it does come down to having structure
Yeah.
and having the right amount of structure where you're not rigid. It's
Mhm.
not that you're being rigid because, like you say, well, I want to go play, and you're going to feel like you're depriving yourself. But the thing that I do love about this lifestyle and choosing a location independent lifestyle is, in a way, it forces you to really evaluate and really get down to business on what is most important,
Yes.
and having that, your North Star. We all talk about it because it's that important to really crystallize, like, what is your why and what's guiding you. And it's okay if it changes. I don't like to box people in. I think people really, what's my why, what's my purpose, and they'll like,
Mhm.
I need to have this perfect plan and everything needs to be perfect before I
Yeah.
take the plunge.
Yeah.
No. And I'll tell you, it wasn't my journey. I didn't have everything perfectly planned out, and thank goodness I didn't, because I'd probably still be at my 9 to 5 if I waited.
Yeah.
So it's not that you have a perfect plan, and thankfully there's people like you, there's people like myself, there's people out there to help you, because we are this passionate about it. If you haven't guessed by now, we want everyone to have the life that they can have, because there's nothing stopping you but you. So
Yeah.
if you instead, it's like this awareness of being able to step back. Okay, how can I put structure in place to have both? Because you can, but it really does come down to what I like to preach and practice is having a minimalistic approach to business.
Yeah.
And it's how I live my lifestyle. And it's also like how I run business, because you can do everything if you want to. Like you said, you can spend 10 hours on LinkedIn, especially if you're enjoying it, which I do. Like, I actually enjoy
Yeah.
reading people's content and like engaging with people. And I'm like, okay, so what do? I set a timer for myself. That
Yeah.
is the discipline that's required to be able to not be just sitting at my desk all day, or my kitchen table back there,
Yeah.
standing at the kitchen table all day long and not enjoying Mendoza, not actually doing things. So I will say it's not so like some people really want to simplify it, which I also do too. I want you to keep it simple. It's not so simple as like time block. That's the answer. Do it.
Yeah.
It is as simple as try time blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself, do it as an experiment, give yourself at minimum a few weeks, but go even longer if you really want to see, and then adjust as you go. Like you do have to have the awareness to say, okay, what's working for me? What's not working for me? And things change, seasons change, places change. Like some places, like you said, South Africa I was living there for a year.
Yeah.
Very difficult for me to focus on business because there's just so much going on. I just loved from the vineyards to going to safaris to like all the things. So it really took much more discipline for me to say, okay, I actually need to set aside time to work on my business. So what worked for me then, which was now a few years ago, was win before noon. What's
Yeah.
important now? Like focusing on what's important now and working up to noon. So anything before noon was work, and then anything after noon was play. And
Yeah.
that's how I structured my day, which is so funny because now, it being in Argentina, I've had to do the opposite where I actually have to schedule in play. Otherwise, I would just be like, it's just a season I'm in right now, just really, nose to the grindstone focused, where I could look up and realize I didn't even see the sunset. So I really have to have more structure on the other side of it where I'm scheduling play. So, for example, on Friday, we're going to be out at the vineyards all day. I put it in the calendar and I invited my partner. Same thing like last week, we went to a little opera show. It was very nice. It was so cute. And I scheduled it. I'm like, okay, we're going to the opera on this day. Like, and so actually scheduling play. So it could look both ways depending on the season you're in,
Yeah.
the energy, managing your energy more than time. Energy
Time
is
zones too,
more
if you're
important.
traveling, right?
And the time zone, exactly.
Like that would be one. Like that's what I when we go to South Africa, it's 6 hours ahead of us, and so that's a change. That means like anything that I would do at noon here is going to be at dinner time there. Also, they have the rolling blackout things every day where they literally shut the power off on all the businesses. Now it's like 5 days a week for 4 hours. It's ridiculous. But like when we were there for that, that was a huge issue because the Wi-Fi is really that, like you're living off Wi-Fi, right? Your business, so you have to have a really great connection. And if your power's out, you don't have Wi-Fi. And then you're like, well, shit, I was supposed to have, I was supposed to put together this coaching program for, a presentation I'm giving, or, like I had to schedule all of my podcasts before we went, and so if you're there though for a longer amount of time, like 6 months or whatever, like there's a lot of planning that you do have to do in advance that if you're flying by the seat of your pants normally in your business, you can't do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that is so true. And I know earlier I said I don't really like it to give travel advice because every place is different for everybody. But there are some things like that I actually had no idea when I went to South Africa, that there were, and I'm glad you called them rolling blackouts and not load shedding.
Yeah, I know.
um, South Africans, man, bless their heart, they just go with the punches. And I'm like, no, like the American in me is like, this needs to be fixed. And so it is important. So like that is one of the things that like if I'm talking to somebody about going to work from South Africa, I'm like, you better make sure that your Airbnb host has a backup generator, just for Wi-Fi. It's okay if the lights are out, you can bring some candles, but just for the Wi-Fi, because it's not fun. Or be somewhere like, for example, we stayed for several months near the Parliament, and we always
Yeah.
had Wi-Fi. Same thing if you're staying near certain embassies, you won't have any Wi-Fi issues. So there are some things like that. But I just wanted to throw that
Yeah.
in there in passing. But you're right. It does take some planning. And for me, like what I typically suggest, maybe people like I don't know. Everyone has their own way. Some people, they just grab their backpack and head to Southeast Asia, book a
Yeah.
one-way ticket, and they're just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Great. If that works for you, awesome. That didn't work for me. I wouldn't suggest it. When I first tasted location independence was back in 2017. We took a trip to Europe. Up until that point, my partner, who I also work together, still to this day, we run a business together. He was not interested in traveling anywhere outside of Cancun, Mexico. He was like, nope, I'm good. Like we would take our vacations, Cancun, Mexico, Hawaii, Costa Rica, certain things like that. He was like, no, there's no reason for me to, want to go to Africa or Europe or anything. So taking that trip to Europe opened his eyes to travel and like, oh wow, there's incredible places. Like, yes, there are actually nice beaches in, south of France and Italy and everything. And for me, it opened my eyes to like, wow, we can actually run a business from anywhere. So I know now, thankfully, with COVID, it's opened a lot of people up to remote work, but I will tell you what, that was not at all what I was planning for. Like we were thinking we were going to have a brick and mortar, huge business. We had an office. Like that was not at all, yeah, in the plans. I didn't read a book, or I know you're telling me about all of these
Yeah.
interesting location dependent books. I didn't do any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so for me, I was telling Renee before we got on, and then we're like, maybe we should just hit play. I mean, hit record. But like I remember the thing that got me at first, like I've always worked remotely, ever since I came out of college. I went straight into pharmaceutical sales. I was 21 years old. That was in 2000, so 23 years ago. And I always stayed in, a remote based sales job, like they call it field sales, where you work out of your home. So I don't really know the cubicle life as much unless I went up to the training department, because after, being really successful in the first couple of years, I became a sales trainer and I loved sales training. So I'd go up to New Jersey a lot for weeks at a time to help the new sales training teams that were or the new teams that were coming through to go through sales training for like the 3-month period, because it was like a really intense sales training program. It was like literally you live in New Jersey for 3 months. So it was like, oh my God. So but yeah, you get a little water cooler talk that way. But as far as I had a lot of freedom, I guess that's my point. I had a lot of freedom already, a lot of autonomy in my job, and I still craved more, because still those conference calls or those little things that like you don't have control over, that hold you back. Or even though I worked from home, if we wanted to travel abroad, I still had to put in a PTO request. I mean, yeah, if my kid was sick or I wanted to, I mean, I literally would be at work from maybe 10 o'clock to 1. Like I became so good at it with the systems and processes that I could get done in 3 hours what most people could get done in 8, and still be at the top of the rankings. And so again, like know what to focus on, right? Know what you have to focus on. But I read this book called The Free Range Human, and it was all around, leaving the corporate life, coming up with a business idea so that you could travel the world or have that freedom, do what you want. And at the same time, I got introduced online to a woman named Natalie Sesson, I think. Like I need to look her up, or Sisson or whatever. Anyway, she was a coach. So this is like my first introduction to the coaching world, even though it didn't hit me that, oh, there's a whole world here. I just heard of like Bob Proctor and like Rhonda Byrne with The Secret. Like that was it. So I was like, I had no idea this whole world exists. Like sometimes I wonder if I had gone into it back in 2015, what could have happened? You know what I mean? But anyway, so when I came up with a couple different business ideas before I finally discovered that the coaching industry was a real thing. And it was exciting to me to not have, have the chains, right? Like not have the manager, or, have that freedom to create what you want to create, and, and get paid to do what you love to do. And I feel like now with all the layoffs that are happening, like for me, it was a huge motivator was being able to see my kids grow up, working from home, figuring it out. And maybe it took me a little longer to figure out like the online business side of things, or have things drop in, because I was obviously very distracted by a 1 and a 3-year-old at the time, right? But like, I think it's so, like the misconception is that you're going to be able to, just completely say goodbye to your 9 to 5 and then have this business that supports you, but people forget that you don't have your marketing department anymore. You don't have your accounting department. Like you show up and do one job in your corporate job, but you show up as a solopreneur and you have every single job. You are the salesperson. And I feel like a lot of coaches out there especially don't want to admit, they're like, I'm a healer. I'm not in sales. And it's like, yes, you are. You're a CEO. Otherwise, you have a hobby. Okay. So if you want
If
this
you
to
want to make money, you are.
right, and I've actually gotten in a discussion with my husband too, because he's branching out to become like a wellness coach and to do like to help CEOs and people prone to burnout to become more mindful and stuff like that. And so, and it was like, well, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm like, listen, and I used to fall into this trap too, because especially in the spiritual community, there's this, well, you need to have this selfless, you know, drive and your why. And it's like, that's bullshit. Like, if you want to go and make money, like, you have to make money. It is a need. Like, you need to make money to pay your bills. You need to make money to travel the world. And if you want to live this extraordinary life that doesn't include Kevin's tuna fish sandwich every day, then like you need to do something different than what you've done. You've got to think differently than what you thought. You've really got to put yourself out there and also give yourself the space to have success. Because what I see a lot is the fear of success. I actually made a post about this the other day, and it was like fucking like went like viral for me, but it was like literally I didn't realize I had this fear of success until, I mean, I'm 45 and I realized this like towards the back half of last year. Actually, no, I'm 44. Fuck, I always do this. I do this for like
I do too. I'm like, I forget my birthday's on Friday and I'm like, I literally have no idea how old I am.
That's the wine. Ooh, yeah. Well, you'll forget how old you are on Friday too, because you'll be at a winery, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's taken me till now to realize how huge this fear was, and how it shows up is doing the mindset work, doing the things that work, to get the results, right? And you'll do this and your clients do this too, right? Like putting the systems in place, but then getting the result you want and then half-assing it after, because you know how powerful inside. It's dangerous to your subconscious, it's dangerous for it to imagine how much success that momentum will actually get. Like this, I'm showing my hands if you're listening, like there is that huge ramp up that's going to happen if you keep doing what you're doing in a great way to your conscious mind, but your subconscious is saying there's saber-toothed tigers there. It's your inner caveman that's like, don't go out at night, you're going to get eaten alive. And you're like, but I'm supposed to go out at night. I'm in like, I'm in Argentina, bitch. Like, seriously, I'm going out at night. Like,
Yeah, you're so right. And we all experience this. And the more that we can talk about it, the more we can normalize it. So you do not feel like you're, as a solopreneur, it's easy every single day to feel like you're on an island.
yeah,
Even if you have a coach, like even if you have a coach, you have a great support system, you have a great, spouse, whatever. Even with all that, it could still feel like you are completely on an island. And I always just want everyone to know, like all of the things from imposter syndrome to having all these fears, it's all super normal. And you're right, it's the funniest thing. People think that they're afraid of failure, but they are actually afraid of success. And it's a very interesting thing how our brain works, because it's trying to keep you safe. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Our mind is so powerful. We know, you have the same brain as Einstein. We know how powerful it is. And so being able to give your brain the credit that it deserves, but also realizing what it's doing and being able to have that awareness to catch it and say, okay, I realize that's a fear response. Let me just give myself a little space to recognize it. And simply, and this is really, it comes down to talking to yourself. It might sound kind of weird or woo woo, but I know you get it. It is just talking yourself in or out of something. And you can talk yourself out of something, which people do all day long. This is why they never quit their job. They never get out of bad relationships. They will continue to make justifications, because that's your old identity hanging on for dear life. And when you're breaking free to this new identity, which includes, maybe it's your solopreneur journey, maybe it's a new relationship, maybe it's how you're handling motherhood. I mean, the list goes on and on. This gap between the two is where a lot of the pain happens. Like you're saying, the fear of, oh my God, this is scary. And I literally have experienced this in such extreme ways where I've had a bodily response. Like when
Yeah.
people talk about, yeah, not being able to sleep or just like not being able to breathe or having anxiety, I've had it all. I've had it all. And
Yes.
so being able to, and thankfully with thank goodness for the internet and thank goodness for social media. Like I used to like loathe social media. Now I'm like, thank God, because you have so many tools that you can tool up your toolbox. It could be nervous system healing. It could be, positive mindset work. It could be I mean, there's the knowledge out there is endless. It's just about you taking a little space and time and investment in yourself, because that is going to be, it's cliche, but it is. You investing in yourself is going to be the best investment you can make in your business. So having those tools to go to, you're never going to not need them. You're never going to not need certain tools, whether it's, like I said, it could be dance therapy, it could be coaching, it could be talk therapy, it could be, just going on a walk, all the things that you realize, okay, this works for me. Let me grab that tool and add it to my toolbox. That's as simple as it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you brought up something because I wanted to ask you earlier. Um, you mentioned the systems to put in place, and I want to get down to like what are what are some like specific recommendations that you have for people if they're realizing, even if you're first, and I want to say, like, even if you're a new coach and you're listening to this, or you're a coach that's already at six figures or multiple, it doesn't matter. All of these things can still apply to you, right? Like, and you're never, and I really feel like it's never too early to start putting systems in place and making your life easier, right? Like automation. I didn't realize that I was doing automation from the beginning until I realized I'm like, oh, I heard people talking about, oh, you do automation, create automated systems. And I'm like, oh, cool, maybe I should do that. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I already do. You
I
know what
already am. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, where do you fit in the mindset work? Like, if I know you say you can set up systems to work 1 to 2 hours a day, or just a couple of, hours a day. However you want to see that. Now, I know some people prefer 3 days a week, for a few hours a day versus every single day, right? Planning in that playtime, like you said. But like, where do you put in, like, what category do you put in mindset work, and what do you recommend for people with that? Because I think that's super important.
Right. So let's unpack a little bit. And if I go off on a tangent, just bring me back, because I tend to do that.
Hey, you're on my podcast. Welcome to the shit show. I love it. No, that's me. Like, I'm like, oh, that was a tangent for another day, but let's talk about it today. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just get messy here, because that's what it is. It's real life. People, it's funny because I like to keep things simple. People ask me, like, what's your framework? It's a 2-step framework: simplify and amplify. That's it. Like, literally, that's what I work with my clients on. So when we talk about systems, people either overcomplicate it and
Mhm.
make you think that you need it. And again, I'm not blaming anybody. Everyone's selling their thing. We have to always remember, like, okay, what's the motivation? Okay, Sally's selling systems, Tammy's selling TikTok. Like, we have to just kind of always be mindful of that, where you're getting your information. So when someone is selling this concept of systems, they often overcomplicate it,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's funny that you said, like, oh, what's this automation about? You're like, oh, I'm already doing this, right? So it could be very simple things. And all I want you to think about when you think about automation and where that fits in is, this feels pretty repetitive.
Mhm.
I'm doing something over and over again. It's working. That's key. It's working. It's not a broken process. It's a working process. How can I get that out of my head or off of my plate
Mhm.
and out, like out into, either, and that's when we get down to, this is why this is in the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, either eliminating it,
Love that book.
automating it, or delegating it. So, and that's why I always start with eliminating, because a lot of the things that you're doing, it's like, okay, yeah, this is a process, this is working, but is it a point of leverage?
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
it giving you the biggest ROI? Because that's where I really want people to focus on simplifying. Like, yes, you're doing things, you could be doing all the things. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, how do you know if it's giving you leverage or not, for somebody who's never thought about this before?
Right. So the first thing you want to do is, and it does take a time investment on the front end. So you have to be willing to just be in the mindset of, I'm in this for the long run. I'm not in here just, short term, rubber band, fixing things, kind of putting out fires. I'm in this for the long run. This is my mission, is something that I believe in. I'm here to serve. I want to have the most incredible lifestyle for me and my family. If you really made that commitment, make the commitment to sit down and really audit.
Mm-hmm.
Take an inventory of all the things that you're doing, because when you do that just as like a baseline, that's going to give you a good starting point, a good baseline, like where am I at now? And then with that mindset, you'll be kind of thinking things out as you go throughout your day when you're doing new things or whatever. And that's often like, it's just baked into everything that I do. I'm thinking, okay, this is something I'm going to automate. This is something that, okay, it's time. It feels like it's a good time to look into a project management tool. It looks like this feels like a good time. Like I need to go from the spreadsheet to a CRM, to a customer relationship management tool, like those kind of things. And it's a bit of intuition, right? Because there's not a one size fits all, right? But going back to your original question on like, okay, where do you start with realizing, okay, these are points of leverage and these aren't points of leverage, and what is my ROI and all of these things? It takes some unpacking. So that's why it helps to work with another person, because a fish doesn't know it's in water. And so many times it could just be an hour. Like sometimes I just sit with someone for an hour and go through like, okay, these are all the things. Here's the inefficiency. Here's the point of leverage. Da, da, da. So if you're doing it on your own, there's nothing stopping you from doing it on your own, is just writing everything out. Okay, these are all the things I'm doing. And even better is to actually spend your week. So if you can dedicate, if you have the commitment from the moment you wake up, and I don't see a difference between life and work, obviously. Like in this lifestyle I live, I don't get to choose. Like, yeah, I can have some structure to help me actually get things done and also live the life that I want. There's no separation. I want to take an audit of everything, because time is, there's only so much time in the day. We all have the same 24 hours, right? So if you, from the moment, yeah, I have the same powers as Beyonce. That like saying always gets on my nerves. I won't go down that rabbit hole.
Like Beyonce has like 80 people on her team. Thanks.
Exactly. I'm like, give me a break. Give me a freaking break. And she's built, and again, it's like always comparing like my step one to someone's step, 100. So if you start from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, and just, I like to do this on a notepad. If you want to do it on your computer or your phone, by all means, go ahead. I just go old school with a notepad. 7 a.m. woke up. 7:15 did my meditation. 7:20, like, and just write down minute by minute, what are you doing? This is the magic that happens from doing this, and just starting with that. And do it for a whole week. If you want to go crazy, do it for 2 weeks. But 1 week is a pretty good capture, like a pretty good visualization for you to see where all of your time is going. And if you really want to add fuel to that fire, write down how you feel energetically before and after. Like if I'm after my meditation, okay, I did some dancing, some movement in the morning. How do I feel? I got on a call. I did a podcast. Oh, how do I feel after? Do I feel energized? Do I feel alive? Do I feel like I want to go on a walk? Like whatever that is, take note of that. And you just taking note of that for a week is going to give you a great baseline on where your time's going. And then from there, okay, where's my point of leverage? Like, okay, this was a great point of leverage. I went on a podcast. I had a really good time energetically. I'm getting in front of an audience. So it's aligned with my goals of exposure and visibility. Let's see, in a couple of months, I might get a strategy call out of it. You know what I mean? Like, so there's some things that you might realize later on, but that's just how you're going to start evaluating like where you're actually spending your time and your resources, to start identifying that leverage and start identifying that return on investment.
Yeah. I think the important thing to think about here too, and to remember, guys, is like you're in it for the long haul, right? So this helps you keep that growth mindset. Even one little nuance that I want you to pay attention to that Renee just said was that you might go on a podcast and you're in front of someone else's audience and then get a strategy call in a few months. And the mistake that I see a lot of people make is they expect to go on somebody's podcast and then that week get like 5 leads from it. And yeah, that can happen. I'm not saying that can't happen. But when you go on and you get these opportunities and you're looking at your time, ask what you're doing with your time, not from an instant gratification, but from a long term, like 20,000 foot view. Like if you think of the goal that you have at the end of this year, and what you're doing right now doesn't align with attaining that goal, then it probably needs to be reshifted, right? Or kicked right out, in my opinion.
No, and I'm so happy that you double clicked on that because it's so often that I see people switching up their strategy. And that's not at all what I'm talking about here. You're not going to take an audit of your week and be like, trash everything, start over.
Yeah,
No, please, for the love of God, don't do that. I really do believe, and I've seen it over and over again, 90-day sprints or what I call 12-week years. This is like how I do all my planning. Is a good capture of like being able to reflect on the last 3 months and see, okay, what worked, what didn't work, while keeping in mind things take time,
yeah,
especially when we're talking about marketing and sales. The know, like, and trust, that is a real thing. People need to see you and hear from you and get to know you understandably. And when we're talking, I know that you help your clients with high ticket sales. When we're talking high ticket sales, that cycle, that sales cycle, if you want to call it that, it could be even longer. And you need to be okay with that. Like you have to be persistent in your efforts and
yeah,
trust. You do have to trust your gut. There is gut trusting involved, along with you identifying, okay, is this a point of leverage for me? Is this an opportunity for delegation? Like if something can be done by somebody else,
right.
be able to let that go as soon as possible and
Yeah,
only be doing what you need to do. Like what is bringing you the most energy, because I want you to do things you enjoy. First and foremost, like if you're not having fun, like what the fuck are we doing here? Like
yeah,
seriously,
exactly.
like I think that's like slapping God in the face. Like please have a good time. Like how, have the energy, have the gratitude, be able to realign, say like, okay, maybe that was giving me energy a few years ago and it's not now. And that's okay, to be able to adjust as you go.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, and notice that where you've grown and where your process needs to grow too, or your business, like you don't have to keep serving the same people all the time. You can elevate
No.
your ideal client. I feel like that's for me, when I see the biggest sticking point for people making sales is that ideal client avatar and finding that, and that because everything blossoms from there or blows up, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and being able to like in the beginning, even you can correct me if you have a different opinion. I'd love to hear it. Even working with a coach, I don't care if you're working with the best freaking coach in the world or whatever. I don't whatever. It's I don't even believe in that. I think like
Like,
okay, a coach is your coach, so um, it doesn't matter. Like, and it could be amazing, and you're doing all the things and you're figuring it out with someone helping you. Be okay with not knowing. Be okay with like, I'm not really sure. Let me try this out for again 3 months and see how it goes and reiterate. Like a lot of people do, and again, I'll go back to the balance of yes, having a plan because that is going to help you kind of see a few steps ahead to take the plunge, but you don't have to stick yourself in a box. You can change it. Again, not too often. Like it's kind of like this dance, not too often, but often enough to like give yourself that freedom. Like, okay, a year ago my avatar was this, and now it's this. Big whoop.
yeah, like one of the things that I see even in pharma, or like I saw with a company my husband worked for, they were new, they were a startup, and they weren't getting the traction that they wanted. And this happens a lot in coaching businesses too, where you come out and you're like, well, I should have better results by now. And so, yeah, they like change the target on who you're supposed to call on, or and this is like an example for the pharma world, where you're call on this type of doctor, call on this type of office, or focus on this type of message. And it was changing like almost on a weekly basis. So you have no idea that moving target, you have no idea what your messaging is, what your client is, because that all changes, and you're not trained on all of those, moving targets with the message as well. Now when you put that in the coaching world too, or being a solopreneur, you do need to focus, right? You need to stick with it because you need to know who you're selling to, what your messaging is, and how they would use the product that you want to put out, or the offer that you want to put out into the world and fill up with like ideal clients, right? But like at the same time, what I see a lot is changing the target, right? Like I
Right.
feel, well, this isn't working, so let me change the strategy. And I think, I fully agree with you on sticking with it for at least, 60, 90 days, because you might find if you're switching the strategy and nothing is working, you're still not bringing in clients, then it's probably you. It's probably
Yeah.
something in you. And I saw somebody post this the other, or post about like, it's not you, you're not the reason why you're not making sales. And I wanted to like get on my soapbox and be like, sometimes it actually is you. But I was like playing with my daughter. I'm like, I'm not getting into that right now, because that's going to be like, I'm like obsessing about this. I'll just create my own piece of content around it. Right. But like, it's true. Sometimes it really is you, sometimes it really is you, your mindset, what you think is available to you, your conviction in your offer, maybe your conviction. And like, no system can out strategy the limit your mind's put on you, And so, yeah, same with working with a coach that has a specific, like I worked with a coach that was preaching automation, like automated webinars to get people into the sales funnel. And then so that way you're not doing live launches all the time. And I like the idea of that. I do. As a mom who wants to travel, I love the idea of having like an automated webinar. It didn't work for me because I think, there was like this like mindset block on, you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
definitely an issue with me in the belief in maybe the system. I don't really know what it was at the time, but I think it was like that fear of success. It was before I realized the fear of success, that I
Mhm.
had. And so, but at the same time, what I said to myself and I said to the coach, I was like, listen, I'm not saying that your system doesn't work, because I believe it does. I just feel like the timing for me right now, like I'm going to put this in my back pocket and one day it is going to work for me. When it's
Right.
ready, the right time. I'm so glad I've learned this, and I'm so glad that I know how to do it, because this is going to blow up my business when it's the right timing to do it. You know what and I get chills talking about
Right.
it, because like it is going to work, like, but you've got to stick with these. You've got to stick with it. You've got to stick with what you're trying, so that you can see, is it working? Is it not working? Do you need to shift something? Do you need to get leverage somewhere else? Do you need to fix a problem within yourself? Like fix a belief deep down that's like holding on for dear life, and like rip it out and let it be. You know what I mean? So
Right, right. And I love that you brought up like when you think about, okay, where's the leverage, what's working, what's not working while you're doing experiments, because you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable with this experiments. It's
yeah,
just, especially in the beginning, like it is just
same.
par for the course. And while you're experimenting, if something works and you're like, ah, okay, I made the sale,
Yeah,
double down,
yeah,
double down on that. And I think, like, I love that you brought up the fear of success, because that is the thing that happens. And I hear it all the time, like, oh, that was just luck. Oh, that person wasn't an anomaly. That was an outliner. No, that is where you should be doubling down. It worked. Keep doing that. Keep doing it over and over and over. And don't be afraid. Like, you're just going to, like, oh, but I'm always going to be doing something. Or what I hear a lot about when I'm working with people is they're doing something that's not scalable right now. That's okay, as
yeah,
long as you have the mindset, like, where you're going, and your ideal lifestyle. Like you said, maybe that's 3 hours a day, maybe that's 3 days a week, whatever that ideal lifestyle is. I always start there. Like, that's like, again, when we talk about baseline, like when we talk about where you want to be, what does that ideal lifestyle look like, so that your business fits into that. Having that in mind, if you're not willing to do the things right now that feels, like, okay, I'm just, because you're figuring it out, that could be a lot more sales calls right now. That could be a lot less automation. You have to be willing to do those things and double down, so that you can really dig into that ideal client, that ideal client avatar that you are here to serve.
yeah,
The more intimate you are with them on the front end, when you go and set up that automated webinar, when you go set up, it is going to sell like hotcakes, because
yeah.
you already figured out the deeper emotional state, the deeper connection, all of the things, because you were intimate with that person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you're not creating everything for the wrong person.
Right. And that I see it all the time. I'm like, you automated too soon. You systematized too soon. That's why when I first, as we first started our conversation, I'm like, I'm so happy people are starting with sales. Like that is that maybe even the best place to start when it comes to starting, from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah, like, cause you need to know the basics. You need to know what's the messaging that's gonna work? What's the framework for creating message? Like, what is the purpose behind it? Like, I made a post today around, like, do this, not that kinda, vibe around your messaging, especially for different types of coaches, because I see people focusing, like, so much on the features and not so much the benefit, or focusing on, like the needs and not really what people want. So, guys, go check out my LinkedIn. You'll find a treasure of like, it's like a treasure box of sales
Treasure trove. Yeah.
goodness, but yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, you need to know, because like, you can't, you got to have like a system, like you said earlier, that works. Like, you've got to have a process that works if you're going to scale it with the automation and scale it with these systems and be able to walk away from it. Because I see people all the time who create, like, or do Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, or like, they feel like they can throw money at the problem, but they're not fixing the problem first. So I think that's really great advice. Yay, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you asked the question, and I'm not sure if I answered it fully about the mindset
Yeah.
of, this really, it comes down to um, systems and like seeing your business as a system and like thinking in that way. And it comes down to separating. And this is, I know you're helping coaches, which can be very difficult to separate yourself from the business because you are the business. You're offering a service of yourself, like your time, your experience, your secret sauce, your way of coaching, like, and it can be really hard to separate. But as soon as you start doing that, as soon as you start remembering and realizing it's not about you, and you can stop taking everything in your business so personal, that is really one thing I want to say is like secret sauce, just as far as mindset of making those shifts, being able to quickly and more efficiently start systematizing, start realizing, okay, a tool can do this, another person can do this. I can take these things off of my plate so that I can have more time.
More free time, I know. Do you personally, I'm just curious about your content. Like, do you use like a scheduler for your content to auto post your content, or do you manually do that? Because I like to ask this question because I get different answers every time. Like, some people love it, some people don't like the scheduler, some people say it hurts the algorithm, some people say it doesn't matter. What's your opinion?
Yeah, and I've done both because I'm a systems geek. I love to geek out with all the different things from the process, like, okay, this is my process for content creation, from figuring out what I'm going to post about to how I'm going to post it to what day, all the things in between, and what tools am I using for scheduling. So everything from Buffer to now LinkedIn has native scheduling. And so just a few weeks ago, I tested out the LinkedIn, um, the native scheduling in LinkedIn, which has its pros and cons. Like there are a lot of ways where like a tool like Buffer is better. But the thing that I liked about the native tool in LinkedIn, which you could probably assume, it does have better reach.
Oh,
So on that side of things, it worked out better. And then I oftentimes, like, I don't beat myself up if I don't have my process trump tight, because life happens. And
yeah.
I live a life first
Yeah.
lifestyle. I have a life first business. So when life happens and I'm like, hey, I just relaxed all day and I didn't schedule out my post for the next week, I'm cool with that. Like
Yeah.
this week, I did not schedule out my post and I'm okay with that. Like being okay with that is, again, part of the secret sauce, is part of the mindset of just like having grace on yourself and relaxing. But I do like to schedule my posts a week in advance, just
Yeah.
1 week. So some people do like a whole month. I'm like, hey, go for it. It's like, it really is more about like what works for you. And like you said, what also is working for the algorithm as well, because if you are playing the game,
Yeah.
depending on what platform you're going to be on, using social media as marketing, play the game, like follow the rules. Don't let your ego get in control. Like, I'm just going to post whenever I want. I'm going to post in ghost. I'm going to follow the rules, because if you're going to use it right.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. Well, Renee, can you tell everybody where to find you? Thank you so much for this. You guys, I hope you brought a notebook because this was really, really good. You got a lot of great nuggets from this interview.
I hope so. If you have that notebook, start auditing your time starting today, starting tomorrow, maybe first thing when you wake up. No, it's just powerful. Honestly, I think I don't want to go harp on that some more, but the other thing I forgot to mention with that is just building the awareness. And that's kind of like a thing that just happens naturally, is like, just tracking it, not being like, oh, I have to do something different. Like, no, again, with all the grace, just write it down, but you're building that awareness like, oh, okay, this is where my time is going. I spent 10 hours on LinkedIn. That's not something that, is a high ROI. So yeah, if you have that notebook, I hope you're auditing your time. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
And I'm going to make a note. I'm going to do my time audit, and then I'll report back. Maybe I'll make a post about it and I'll tag you.
Yeah.
My accountability.
I love to see it. Not a lot of people are ready for it. A lot of people are just like, oh, you're asking me to do what? No, but I know your audience is advanced.
It's like being in debt and looking at your credit card balance and making like a spreadsheet. And I don't mean letting QuickBooks do it. I mean, you having to sit there and put every entry in yourself because you're like, damn, wow. You know what I mean? And you look at that, like just the simple act of doing that, if you've got like debt, is so powerful. It makes your money feel appreciated. It really opens up more abundance and more money to come in. But that's where I think I look at this topic the same way with your time, right? Like time and money. Time's the only thing you can't get more of, right? And so it's a currency. And if you're auditing where your time is going, then you won't find yourself in debt and you'll find more time on your schedule, right?
Right. It really does come down to accountability, like being radically accountable for yourself. Like you have the power if you are willing to stare yourself in the face and be like, okay, what am I doing? It's the same way I got out of debt. I had $25,000 in credit card debt. And what did I start doing? I started writing down where every cent was going. And that alone was the momentum that built me going from $25,000 as a whole to having as much money as I needed, so it's like, it really does come down to that accountability, self-responsibility, whatever you want to call, but take accountability for yourself, because that's where it all starts.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Oh my God, you're so fun. I love it.
Well, where can everybody find you so that they can come learn about how to make their life easier and have more time in their day, right? So you can have more fun and play.
Yeah. LinkedIn, come party with us on LinkedIn. I swear, it's so much funner. If you're not already on there, it's so much funner than you think. People are cool as hell. And yeah, for sure. I'm on LinkedIn, wherever you can catch me on other social media platforms. Sure. But that's where I'm hanging out the most. Yeah. Would love to connect with you.
Yeah, like Instagram's like my jilted lover. I used to spend so much time with him last year, and like ever since I started getting like, hey, Cassie, come check out the top reels of the day. I said to my husband yesterday, I was like, Instagram keeps sending me these notifications. They never used to send me when I was active on the platform, but it's kind of like the 3 a.m. messages you get from some kind of fuck. Hey, hi, are you awake? And you're like, hell no, I'm not. I'm having my boyfriend.
You're like, I'm taken now, and he knows how to treat me right. Yeah. Oh my God, you're hilarious. I love it.
Thank you so much, Renee, for being again, and thank you for the compliments. I'll receive that. And go find Renee. You will love it. And come play with us on LinkedIn, because it is the place to be. So have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
If you loved this episode of I'm Not Salesy, then go ahead and hit subscribe so that you're notified of the next episode. And also leave a 5-star rating and a review. And if you send it to the link in the show notes, we will send you a present in return. We also love to feature reviews on the podcast as well. So we'd love to feature yours. So go ahead and send a screenshot to the inbox and come find me on social media. I love hearing what you're up to and how you're becoming not salesy too. I'll see you in the next episode.